Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Urs Sturneman. I'm running since 2004 a law firm in the UAE, where Bosco regularly runs conferences. I'm delighted to welcome you to a Bosco webinar about challenges businesses face in the light of the crisis, new reporting standards and legislative rules.
My name is Irina, and I'm the owner and director of Infoducci Services Group. When clients come to us, what they actually really ask, they really want to achieve, protect their assets against various claims, and claims are normally creditors, family members, government, whatever. Everybody, and that's absolutely true, want to minimize their checks. And we are doing that by maximizing earnings and growth. Flexibility of the structure is one very important issue. The current COVID-19 crisis is a great reminder. Take steps now to protect your assets, because you really have uncertain situation. It's only started. We're only a few months in this particularly terrible time. We don't know what will be tomorrow. It just can go as a snowball. Look at news in America today. Look at news in China today, in South Korea today. Virus starts to come back in Asian countries. That's really an alarming situation. We can't control it. That's why I suggest to think about your assets, about your wealth, about something which really can ground you, which you can. There is, three types of different structures I described to you. As I mentioned, I did not go into discussion of complications. I only put the the point which is important for you to remember. You can keep control. You also create structure which provides you privacy. And if you work together with your advisors, you also can make the structure relevant to your needs.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Valeria Ibrantseva, and I'm the Executive Business Development Manager at CS Global Partners. St. Kitts is the only CBI jurisdiction in the world to have an accelerated application process, a premium process, available for an additional fee that ensures the citizenship process is complete just within 60 days. The investor may oversee the process remotely, and all the paperwork is handled, of course, by CS Global Partners. The passport is then delivered to the investor, so it's not necessary to travel to retrieve it, which makes it a convenient process from their home. One of the primary reasons why people buy a second passport is to free themselves from absolute dependency on a single country. It's common advice to diversify financial investments across a variety of markets, property categories, and industries. Yet many people do not spread their personal political risk beyond their birth jurisdiction. In past, I used to receive questions about the expensive price tag and big investments required for the second passport. But today, the price for the citizenship is not only justified due to all of its advantages, but also because during these pandemic times, global mobility and freedom of movement is priceless.
The reason I'm saying this is because we have, as a company, we're very diverse in what we offer. So I'm gonna cover a lot of topics. But first, I would like to talk a little bit about Cyprus, inform you about any new developments about Cyprus and the virus and the recovery. And then, of course, we're going to deep dive into what we can offer to the investors. Now, the advantages are well known about Cyprus. Apart from all these things, regarding the coronavirus, the government has handled it very well. We are now having almost 0 cases every day. We're talking about 2 to 3 cases. We have lifted the heavy measures of the lockdown last week, and now the markets are opening again. Construction is up, is back to work. So therefore, the future is very promising, and Cyprus has never been safer to invest. And there has been also a recent report from a French insurance company exactly saying that Cyprus indeed is one of the safest countries in the world. Now, my next topic, which is what I want to focus a little bit more, since it's what again diversifies us from other people, what makes us different from other people. We have established 2 alternative investment funds. Funds are lately a very, very attractive tool for safe investments because they have a dividend payout and they have an exit policy. The greatest thing about funds is that you invest for 5, 6, 10 years, you make good returns, and then after, whenever you are done with it, you can redeem your shares. You can get back your money.
And good afternoon, everybody. I'm here in sunny Panama. Anyway, I'm going to be talking today about making passive profits in the world which has really gone upside down, right? We've really gone topsy-turvy in the investment markets. So many question marks have come up. So privacy is essential to having security, all right? So that's one thing that's very important to us, but growth is another, okay? Most people these days are being challenged to preserve their wealth or to create wealth. You know, for those that are on the upward trend, creating wealth is becoming increasingly difficult. All right. Now, what we have here is a chart showing the monthly returns this year for our trading activity. January, 30%. February was fantastic, 69%. I wouldn't expect to see that very often, but it did happen. And in March and April, when the markets were crashing all around the world, we still were upwards close to 20%. So you've always heard that, you know, in previous depressions throughout history, in depressions and recessions, there are always people making millions of dollars in a depressed economy. We've positioned ourselves so that we can do the same thing. Regardless of what happens to the economy, we can generate profits, okay? All right, here's a chart of the crude oil futures, WTI, West Texas Intermediate Oil Futures. And this is a weekly chart, so each of the candles that you see here represents the price action for 1 week.
Hello, everyone. I want to start with a question. Who has heard the term a COVID discount? How about that? That's a term that I've heard a lot recently, and it is actually quite hilarious, but the reality is much more serious. People start to ask that question, treating COVID-19 as an excuse not to perform their existing contracts. It is true that many businesses have faced real difficulties with performing their contracts, but how can one assess this, whether this is actually true? No matter if you start negotiating or if you want to think about litigation, these are the options that you can practically make. You can discuss being relieved from certain obligations. Now let's look at the national standards in contract law. One very basic observation is that this situation looks very differently under common law and under civil law jurisdictions. In common law, the general approach is that if you have a force majeure clause inserted into your contract, then you can rely on force majeure. If you don't have that clause inserted in your contract, then forget about it.
As you can see now, the talk will be about substance and the migration of companies. Substance has become quite an important word these days, although Corona, of course, is covering everything. But nevertheless, we have to realize there are the authorities who will come back to that they have looked into it, that companies need to have substance. And my presentation will be about those economic substance rules, the new normal, the new reality, and was as well a solution to it, the company migration. We have a migration to many countries is possible, and perhaps the UAE will be an ideal place to migrate to. Everybody needs to report, and here we have a list of those 9 relevant activities under the regulations. Banking, so I would assume many of those who are listening now are not in the banking or insurance sector working, perhaps in the fund management, lease finance, headquarters, yeah, that is an important part, shipping, perhaps less for you, but holding company, again, something important to look at, and then intellectual property and also distribution and service center businesses, which perhaps quite a few of the companies which you're handling would fall under. This now is also a moment in time where you can think about, okay, perhaps my place in some jurisdiction which has perhaps 30,000 employees and 500,000 companies is not really the place which where my company should be. Now you should think about where my company should be. Where could it be? Then of course you would think, oh, it should be easy to establish, it should be easy to reach, foreigners should be accepted to live there, and all this you find in the UAE. The UAE, the United Arab Emirates, Dubai above all, they are ideal, it's an ideal location one welcomes everybody. So let me see what kind of questions we have. Well,
now I think New Zealand is one of the countries where everything is clean. The requirements are very, very clean and clearly described. And we know what we actually have to submit to authorities. It means we can advise our clients in the best way.
More than happy to answer this question. Well, clearly I can say that St. Kitts and Nevis will be the best option for the Russian client. We are still yet to find out a bit more information about his background.
Passport gives access to Russian businesses in the European Union. It's the closest and largest market for Russian businesses. In Cyprus, we have a very strong tax treaty with Russia. So therefore, we save taxes for Russian investors. I understand the cost of a Cyprus citizenship is way larger than the Caribbean, but what you need to look at is not the actual cost, but the return on investment. Is the return on what you get after you get a Cyprus citizenship.
Well, I think this time of sitting on lockdown is a great time to reflect on your business.
What's next and how do we survive? Is there a paradigm shift coming away? Is everything changing now because of Corona? Or is it just a hiccup in our history and life will continue?
I fear that the coronavirus is only the first step in a longer term plan, basically what we have going on here, and I don't want to get too far afield, but what we have going on here really is the ultimate battle between good and evil in my mind.
That's why I just wanted to say thank you to all panelists. Thank you, Urs, for leading this discussion and our panel. And thank you to Bosco Conference. As usual, they organize interesting event. And in these particular days when we sit at home, I think your webinars are quite useful. You have time for them.
I'd like to inform that Bosco is adapting to this new normal, is adapting that it is difficult to make conferences, and perhaps we as participants in conference, we also realize, well, part of the information has been shared now over the computer, over the internet, without us traveling all the way, without us having all the expenses. And I guess this will be a change for the future, that many more meetings will be done by Zoom, by other such ways. And I see here on the 15th of May, there's new business area, financial instrument, tax risks. And then on the 20th of May, citizenship by investment. Well, Valeria and George, that's on the 20th of May. And then on the 22nd of May, manage your business online. Well, I guess everybody of us can participate in that because we're doing that since 2 months. Then the 27th of May, wealth management and tailor-made strategy. And on the 29th, asset management, corporate and personal finance. So that I think is quite useful to know. And I guess everybody's welcome, and everybody of the participants will receive invitations. So if I don't have any other things to say, then I would say thanks a lot to everybody. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for Bosco of having organized that.